Hey there folks, welcome back to the channel. My name is Peter and we have a sort of interesting woodworking project ahead of us today. So my mother recently brought over this planter box and said, you know, this thing's a little worse for the wear. Do you think you can fix it for me? I said, can I ever? This thing's obviously been sitting outside for quite some time, and as you'll see in this B-roll, it is worse for the wear. We've got boards inside here that are basically crumbling at the seams. The front wheel is flat, or at least as flat as a wooden wheel can be, but we're going to try and fix it. So we're not going to rebuild the whole thing. There's basically three things that we want to do, which is replace this base, replace this front section, and then replace the wheel. I'm going to start with the wheel first because I think that's going to be the most intense part of the project. And of course, if I can't figure that out, there's no reason to spend time doing the rest of this. By the end, hopefully we'll have something that's a bit more structurally sound. It can hold up to our elements and just look a lot nicer. Now, I'm not going to paint it in this video. I'm going to leave that to the professionals, but we are going to try and bring this thing back to life. So hopefully that's something you're interested in. Be sure to like and subscribe if it is. We cover tools, EDC, and do-it-yourself projects on this channel, and let's get right into it. So this wheel, which is still turning, which is cool, obviously is worse for the wear. It is, I think that this is a single piece of wood here, and then maybe they turn this a little bit on a lathe so that this portion is just circular and it fits into this piece. It looks to be held on by this Phillips screw. Unfortunately, the screw has some paint in it, so I'm going to try to get that scraped out of here. So that's one screw successfully removed, but this one seems like it's just sort of spinning in place. Oh, we got it. I failed to capture this on video, but the screw was still stuck in here even though we got the wheel off. So we got to use our snap-on 8-inch pry bar for the first time to push it out of there. So what we have as a replacement is this. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that not quite the same size. I don't know how well it's coming through on the video, but this is a little bit smaller than this. And ultimately, we're gonna go with a new design. So what I'm hoping is we're gonna get these side pieces off of here somehow. Haven't quite figured that out yet. Maybe another job for the pry bar. And then I basically want to place this over top this new piece, where we're going to effectively trace these empty sections, and then we'll cut those out with our jigsaw on our new piece. All right, there's one. Let's see, well, this just, so it slides right off, and then we get the other piece. Great, well, now we have our wheel, and so I would say that, yeah, this thing's probably 10 or 15% bigger. Hopefully now this will give you a better sense of what we're talking about. If this would cooperate, I'd be able to show it to you a bit more concretely, but this new piece is definitely smaller. We don't really care. This is not a wheelbarrow in the sense of we're not hauling dirt. Again, it's just a planter. It's going to sit stationary, so that's okay. I just so happen to have in my scrap dowel pile, I'm not even sure what this came off of. It looks like maybe a broom handle, but it's basically the perfect width, such that these pieces fit over it. They're not as tight a fit as we got before. I suppose if we really wanted to, we could get a shim in there, but I don't think we need to. These will fit. We got the screws out without an issue. They're not in the best condition, but I have no good way to recreate this piece. So we're gonna reuse these pieces. We're gonna throw away this dowel, which is pretty soft, so I don't think that we will miss this at all. I won't throw anything away yet because we'll need to measure all of our old pieces to make sure everything is proper. So to find the center of our circle, we're gonna overlap our carpenter square with our speed square. We're going to mark 2 lines after rotating 90 degrees. And then where those 2 lines intersect is where we would drill our hole to fit our dowel. And thus, we have a hole in the center of our wheel. I haven't used a compass since high school, but It's like riding a bike, I suppose. All right, folks, so I don't know that I drew the best circle. I certainly tried my best, and again, I wish I had done this before I cut out the center. But anyway, everything that's scribbled in here, we're gonna cut out with our jigsaw. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cuts in total. We're gonna not go past this, and we're gonna not go past this line here. So it'll just give us a little pie-shaped piece to cut out, and in that way it'll look a little bit more like the old wagon wheel. So obviously these are not aligned yet. We still have a lot of sanding, and then I tried to cut within the pencil mark so that I could go back over with the sander and then level everything out. But it's starting to look like a wagon wheel. Kind of. So before we can cut anything, we gotta get these screws out of here. Ah, interesting. I had a hard time getting this screw out because the screw is painted as well. So I'm just trying to hold on to it with the pliers using my ratcheting wrench here.
A few moments later.
There's one, only 3 to go. I'm just holding onto the nut with my 10mm. There's 2. So these are screwed in there, which is actually really good news for us. We don't have to do any prying. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pretty rusted screws, but if we can get them out, these boards will just lift right up, and then we'll probably end up running our new pieces this way instead of this way. Well, it used to look like a planter box. We definitely have some work ahead of us. All right, folks, it is a couple days later since the last piece of footage that you saw. I'm gonna try and get this project done today because I need my workbench back. I gotta use this for some additional filming. My plan is this. This piece of wood does have an angle to it, but I don't think it's intentional because I don't see the same angle on this side. So my plan, hopefully it's not fraught with terror, is I'm just gonna sand this whole thing down, right? I've got about 16 7/8 the long way. Previously the boards are running vertically. I'm gonna run them horizontally. I think it'll give this a bit more structure before we attach it. The wheeling piece, so we'll get this sanded down a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just wanna knock down like this outermost edge is the highest spot, and I just want it to be a little more closer to parallel. We'll get a level on this, make sure it looks good. At that point, I've already got our miter saw out, but I guess you can't see it just yet. And we'll start cutting our horizontal pieces. And then up here at the front of this, that is gonna need some sort of miter. But I have an idea for how to do that because I don't know how to reverse engineer the angle. So if you all know how I could reverse engineer the angle, please enlighten me. But I don't know how to do that. So I have an idea. We'll see if it works or not, and we'll go from there. Perfectly level in the center. Front to back, there's a little bit of movement, but I think my plan generally worked. So now I'm gonna cut our horizontal runners. So I was originally going with a number 8 wood screw. I am gonna countersink them, but now I'm realizing I think number 8's too big. So now we're going down to a number 6, but all I have in 6 is 3/4 inch, and I was hoping to use a 1-inch screw. So I guess we'll see what happens. I think once I get this first one on there, I can add some structure. And then it should be a little bit easier. First piece is looking pretty good. You know, what I never realized with woodworking is just how many different drills you need at a given time. Like right now, I've got this for the screws, this for the pilot hole into the bottom piece, and this for the countersink. It adds up. This is coming along. All right, so we've got the bottom on, which looks great. Now the front is tapered, right? So it starts a little bit thinner and it gets wider as we get towards the top. I'm hoping someone in the comments is going to be able to tell me how I can do this math without having to do what I'm doing. But basically what I'm saying, this piece of wood needs to be 16.5 inches at the bottom, which is right here. At the top, it needs to be a 1/2 inch wider. So I'm drawing this triangle and I'm gonna try to make this miter cut. This is just a test piece, I wanna try this out. But what is the easy way to figure this out? So we have a good news, bad news situation. This is the piece that I ended up with, and how well it will come out in the video is unclear, but at the top here you have the full length and then it tapers down. I'm realizing the mistake that I made. So the bottom is a 1/2 inch shorter. So what I did is I measured from the bottom, I came in a 1/2 inch on both sides, and then I stuck it in here. And that amounted to about a 10-degree cut. What I'm now realizing is that you can't come in a 1/2 inch on both sides, because now your whole board will be in 1 inch, it'll be a 1/2 inch too short. So what I'm thinking, I'm gonna make one more test cut. The top is fine, come in a 1/4 inch from each side, which really, I think I can just cut the degrees in half, right? If I set the saw at 5 degrees and I make my cut, I think that will get us what we're looking for. And obviously you would expect that line of growth will stay consistent all the way through the top, which means all we should have to do is measure the widest part of the board and then just cut it at 5 degrees. Well, folks, we did it. I feel very smart, even though I know I shouldn't because I probably just got lucky. But, so the top here is 16.5. We set our miter saw to a 5-degree angle, and then I just lined up the guide from the miter saw with the top here. So we shaved off this 5 degrees and now it tapers down. So again, I don't know the degree to which it will come through in the video necessarily, but it is thinner here than it is up here, but we have a consistent fit along the sides. Now I'm just holding this piece in place because this was a scrap piece of wood. I just wanted to test it out. I'm frustrated because I don't know necessarily like how I got there, right? I did like a binary search, right? I went a little too big, then a little too small, then I got right in the middle. I want to know like what is the repeatable pattern, right? What is the function or formula or algorithm, whatever you want to call it, to arrive at this value consistently, as opposed to having to kind of guess and check your way through it. So that's okay. We're learning. Hopefully you all will share something interesting, but nonetheless, I'm gonna make the rest of these cuts on the real piece of wood now. Folks, I can't overstate how happy I am. Algorithm be damned. I mean, look at that. So this is a 5-degree angle from top to bottom. This is our actual workpiece. It just fits in there so nicely. Well, folks, I'll tell you right now, the next tool we have to buy is a better clamp, because if I had a clamp that could span this full width, this would have been a whole lot easier. But I do not. Maybe a little less snap-on and a little more Bessie. And the Milwaukee installation drill. Those are our next 2 purchases. Clamps, Milwaukee installation drill. All right, so I just got off the phone with the client because what I was wondering is, you know, I left this 1/4 inch gap in between these pieces, which makes sense, right? You're gonna have potting soil, water, you need some drainage. I wanted to know in the front, do you want the same gap or do you want these to just be flush with one another? She said flush, and then I said, do we want this piece to come up this high, or do you want it maybe cut in half so you can see downward, and she wants it to be this height. This is our final piece I just cut on the table saw. This is the only time when I'm reusing screws from the original. All right, folks, well, that project took several days, actually a lot of swearing. At one point I had this thing up and down and it fell over and it came apart, and yeah, a lot of swearing. What I have found is that listening to Peaceful Piano, the playlist on Spotify, helps. So I'm gonna start doing that a lot more in the future. Hopefully you enjoyed this one-day build. Let me know if you'd like to see a video in which I talked through all the tools that I made use of to do this. I did that with the lawnmower video and people seem to enjoy it, so let me know if I should do something similar here. As always, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all on the very next video.